Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you our vice presidential nominee, Paul Ryan. Congressman?
Hey, do you have me now?
We have you now. It's great to have you on Common Sense for the Commonwealth. Pete Snyder filling in for John Fredericks. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us this
Pete,
morning.
It's great to be back with you. How you been?
Hey, I've been fantastic. Fantastic. We're working hard for the ticket here in the Commonwealth.
I know you are. You're helping run these victory centers.
Well, we're trying to build the largest ground game in the history of Virginia politics for you, Congressman, and for Governor Romney, and getting you over the top.
We're doing it for our country. We're doing it for each other. I've toured the victory centers. I'm in Virginia most of the day today. I'm up in New York, but I'm going to be going to Lynchburg and Fredericksburg and Arlington. Virginia is crucial. It's so essential and important, and I'm really excited to be spending time there. And you guys have been just really doing the Lord's work all throughout the state.
Well, thank you so much, Congressman. Thanks for the inspiration that you're bringing to the ticket, to the intellectual firepower that you're bringing to the ticket as well. It's inspiring so many of us. But before we get into policy, I know you're a policy guy. I need to ask the question that so many millions of Americans have been wondering. What was it like sitting on that stage when millions of Americans, and I'm sure you were as well, were blinded by those porcelain veneers and hearing that cackle? What was it like? When did you realize, oh my gosh, this guy's being a little rude? What was going through your head, Congressman?
You expect me to answer that? I'm just kidding. I could tell. I mean, obviously, I could see what he's doing because he was sitting right next to me. And look, the way I look at this, that's just not my style or my demeanor. That's just not the kind of temperament I have, nor was it the way I was raised to try and have a debate like that. So I figured he's going to act like he's going to act. I'm going to be me. As long as the time was relatively evenly distributed, which she did that. The time was fairly even, and I could just tell that was the way he chose to conduct himself and act. And I just wasn't going to follow suit. And it seemed clear to me that perhaps that he was just trying to he had a particular strategy, or he was just acting, in the way he chose to debate. And I just was me. That's all I say. That wasn't the way I was raised. And, as far as I'm concerned, my goal was to call them out on their inaccuracies and their falsehoods, number one. Number two, and show the country a really clear choice. What is Mitt Romney, what is he all about? What kind of ideas are we offering? What is the choice that the country faces? And so I wanted to spell out the choice as best I could. We spent a great deal of time on foreign policy, so we didn't get into Obamacare nearly as much as I would have liked to have, or the debt and those kinds of issues. But there are great chances that Mitt will have tonight to do that. What mattered to me is that we gave the country a very clear choice so that they could decide what kind of country they wanted to have, what direction they wanted the country to go. And so as far as I'm concerned, I was able to accomplish that. I felt good about that. And with respect to, how people conduct themselves, all I can control is how I conduct myself, and that's what I focused on.
Well, Congressman, your mom clearly did one heck of a job on you, and Jana's probably done a good little bit too. So, you did a beautiful job of being you and in that debate and making so many of us proud. You mentioned Obamacare and you mentioned the debt. I'm an entrepreneur, and I talk to a lot of other entrepreneurs and CEOs, and there's just so much hesitation happening in the private sector right now when so many entrepreneurs don't know how to make heads or tails of Obamacare and the impact it's going to have on small business and the economy. Talk to us a little bit about...
Yeah, that's, to me, a huge issue that does not get discussed well enough, which is regulations, according to the Small Business Administration, cost the economy an estimated $1.75 trillion every year. We have a $15 trillion economy, and we have $1.75 trillion of regulations. And then you look at what this administration has done, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's all their new energy. Look at what they're doing to the coal industry in Virginia. All of that is because of Environmental Protection Agency regulations. Look at what they're doing to the financial services sector. It's a massive consolidation of power and control into larger banks, which are now too big to fail, meaning taxpayer bailouts in the future likely. And small banks are going by the wayside. 122 community banks went out of business last year. That means the small businesses who mostly get their credit, their financing from local community banks, have less access to credit. That means fewer jobs. So you see the regulations on coal. You see the regulations on small banks, which makes it harder for them to lend money or to even stay in business. And then you look at the Chamber of Commerce, which surveyed small businesses and asked them about Obamacare, and 75% of them said that they are less likely to hire new workers because of Obamacare, because of the healthcare regulations coming out and the uncertainty surrounding that. And so that's why we have this huge cloud hanging over our economy today. It's why the economy grew so slowly so far this year, 1.3%. It grew slower than it did last year, and last year was slower than the year before that. So we're going in the wrong direction. Job growth is slowing down. You have to create 150,000 net new jobs every month just to keep up with the growth in our population, and we haven't even been doing that. And so those are the things that I think really hit our pocketbooks, hit our economy, that we want to discuss more. And talk about the defense cuts. I was just amazed. The vice president keeps saying that these are defense cuts that everybody wants, that are really good, they're in our national interest. Ask Virginians about the defense cuts that are coming. Go down to Norfolk, go to Newport News, ask the people there what they think about these reckless and devastating defense cuts that are hanging over us, and just how many jobs that they could cost Virginia, not to mention how it jeopardizes our national security. That, to me, is something that we need to discuss more, because not only does it affect our jobs, our livelihoods in Virginia, it's defense, it's coal, it's our small banks that give the credit to our small businesses, but it's just the direction they're taking the country and how they've gotten us so far off track. And the good news is what Mitt and I are offering, strong national defense, and all of the above energy strategy, which clearly includes coal, which means use our own energy to create jobs in our own country to lower prices of energy, not increase prices, which is the president's goal with his energy tax. And get the barriers out of the way of small businesses. Lower tax rates on small businesses so they can compete. The president wants the top tax rate on small businesses to go above 40%. That's ridiculous. Most other countries tax their businesses at 25% or less. And so, a lot of our manufacturers, I'm going to a manufacturer in Lynchburg today, they pay the individual tax rate and they compete against foreign competition. And when your competitors are getting taxed at about half the rate you are, that puts you at a huge competitive disadvantage, and it makes it harder to compete and hire people. And so these are the issues that matter the most, not to mention the fact that all of this borrowing and spending in Washington is triggering a likely debt crisis. So we've got to get this stuff under control. And what Mitt and I are offering are specific solutions and plans. That's what our 5-point plan for a stronger middle class is all about, to get people back to work, to turn the corner, to get growth back in the economy, to prevent this crisis from getting out of control.
Well, Congressman, you bring up an excellent point. And I'm an entrepreneur, and it just seemed that there was such a disconnect on that stage between you and Joe Biden, and frankly, a disconnect with this entire Obama administration when you have the president standing up in front of the country and saying that he thinks the private sector's doing fine, but we just need more public sector jobs. There seems to be a real disconnect of how taxes will impact small business, what that will do for growth overall. I know your political mentor was Jack Kemp, a real hero of mine. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned from Jack Kemp about growth and really, the differences between what you and Governor Romney want to do and what we've been seeing, really a lack of understanding of the private sector from this administration?
Sure. Jack would always say, if you tax something more, you get less of it. If you tax something less, you get more of it. So if you tax small businesses and families more, you get less small business growth, you get less family take-home pay. So if you tax small businesses less, you get more small business growth. You get more small businesses. You get more jobs. It's basically when you crank up the tax rate on small businesses, as the president's proposing, and by the way, it doesn't even pay for 10% of his spending increases, it it makes it harder for small businesses to survive and create jobs. So it's basically a tax on jobs. Now, the president likes to say it's just to enrich people, but never forget the fact that 8 out of 10 small businesses pay their taxes as individuals. So they're, in by and large, the so-called rich. You think it's really, a ball player or a Wall Street guy, but it's actually that industrial park that's on the edge of your town that has 50 employees. That 8 out of 10 odds are they pay taxes as individuals. And so that's a huge tax on small businesses. What Jack would always say is, the individual, the entrepreneur, the risk taker, that's what creates jobs. It's the person who works hard, who takes a risk, who can get credit from their local community bank, who can start a manufacturing job, who can start some kind of business, and then bring more people to work. 65% of our net new jobs come from small businesses. Most people don't get their jobs from the big corporations. They're not the big hirers in America. And so what Jack would always say is, it's growth, it's opportunity, it's the American idea of an opportunity society, of upward mobility. You want to have the kind of incentives we need for savings, for investing, for growth, for risk-taking, for job creation, and you'll get more of it. Now, the President Obama, he has much more of a government-centered society vision. He believes in a government-run, government-led economy. When he goes to Roanoke and says, if you have a small business, you didn't build that, he reveals a political philosophy that believes that the nucleus of the economy is the government, not the entrepreneur, not the small businessman or woman. It's not the worker. It's the government, and the government must command and control it. And that's why you see it makes sense if you want to look at what he has been doing in office. More regulations, more power in Washington, more taxes, more borrowing, more spending. Have a bunch of bureaucrats in Washington decide how to micromanage certain aspects of our society and our economy. And if you look at what he's doing through the lens that he reveals occasionally, we want to spread the wealth around, you didn't build it, it shows you a political philosophy that believes in a government-centered economy and a government-run society. And once you see that, you can understand why we're doing so poorly. Why are we growing so slowly, if at all? Why is it that entrepreneurs are stuck, that small businesses can't get capital, that people aren't going back to work? That reveals the mindset. And so if you just go back to the founding principles, liberty, freedom, free enterprise, self-determination, government by consent of the governed, meaning we don't delegate all our power to unelected bureaucrats in Washington to regulate our coal jobs out of existence, things like that, it then shows you the way to fix this country. Those are the principles and the lessons that we've been taught, whether it was Jack Kemp or our founding fathers, and those are the principles that we're acting on to get people back to work, and that's what we're going to do come 2013.
Well, Congressman, you've clearly been carrying the Jack Kemp torch for the free markets, inspiring us all. You're going to be in Lynchburg this morning, in Fredericksburg this evening. We're so excited to have you here with us. Appreciate your time, and carry us on to victory, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pete. Take care.
Stay right here for